we're going to bolt on a 3-inch taller, 1-inch wider factory Volkswagen spindle. And the best part is, it is a true bolt-on right onto our original beam. All right, Nate, what's the plan today?
Today we are going to try to test how much travel we get out of the stock spindles and arms, and then swap it over to the thing spindles and arms and see how much travel we get out of that.
What we want to do is get a baseline, what the ride height is with these original wheels and tires, and then we'll pull off these arms and these spindles, and we'll pull out the leads, and we're going to cycle just the Beetle ball joints and spindles and see how much travel those get, and then we're going to put on the Volkswagen Thing spindles and cycle those and see how much travel we get out of the Thing spindles. I have no idea what Thing spindles will travel, but the nice thing about Thing spindles is the ball joints, instead of being like a Beetle where the ball joints point towards each other, the Thing spindles, they both point down. He's going to start pulling this apart after we get a baseline as far as the ride height on it, and then we'll jack it up, put it on jack stands, and pull off the shocks and the sway bar and the drums and the tires and the wheels and
everything.
Pull out the leaf packs out of the beam. Generally have a whole bunch of fun. Pulling apart suspension bits, especially old ones, can be kind of dirty, so be prepared. So, to the body, looking at essentially 12¼ inches, thereabouts, to the body. We'll see how much lift we can get by swapping out to those guys.
It looks like 13.
Maybe.
Yeah, actually 14. Oh gosh, it looks not off the shock.
Alright, now you gotta get the second one off.
And apparently I don't think I have a 14. Surprisingly, as far as range. So I'm just using this one from there. And now we have to get that one off too, I'm guessing?
Those ones are usually kind of tough. So you might want to use some power.
Power?
Is it a 14?
Yep, it is a 14.
Hold on. Alright.
There we go. I'm guessing just from the beam though?
There you go.
There we go.
And if you want, at this point, you can grab the 19 and pull the wheels off.
18.
Alright, put the leg nuts back in the drum.
Did somebody spray paint the inside of that wheel?
Yes.
There we go.
Amazingly enough, that shock is not blown.
What, that one on that side? How about this one?
I don't know, push it down to resistance. Yep.
It's not going back up.
Not supposed to be oil filled shock.
Okay. Oh yeah, I forgot, because it goes up with this, huh? Actually, oh gosh.
Made in the USA.
Wow.
That's why it's still good.
Now,
At this point, you can cut that brake line,
okay.
the hose itself.
Oh, this
Get a
one?
pair of snips, yeah.
Or just,
Oh, there you go.
that worked too.
There should be a 19 here,
What, for the, right?
the tie rod end. Although there might be a cancellation nut on there. Yep, you got to pull that cotter pin out, so you got to get a pair of needle nut pliers and a flathead screwdriver. Bend that cotter pin out, pull that out, at which point you can probably get a 19mm, loosen that.
And then,
With the impact, most likely is going to be your best thing. Once it's loose, we'll get a hammer, we'll bang on the arm to get that broken free. I'll work on getting these sway bar clamps off, because those are never fun.
I'm guessing that we're not going to reuse these things?
Correct.
Almost. Got it. And trash. Oh, barely missed.
Alright, put it back arm.
There you go.
Right. Good job. And we didn't even damage the threads.
Wow.
Alright, well,
That's
from
a
here.
really good series. Oh, hold on to that for grip, apparently. It moves a little bit.
I'm going to pull off these sway bars. You'll also have to chip out all this dirt and grease and grime from in these Allen heads. You got one over here, it's the same way. These sway bar clamps. You got this little tab right here. A bigger screwdriver might help. And you've got to pry back that clamp.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And then you hammer it that way. And then once this one's out of the way, you can do the same thing down here. But nothing else can do the plastic mallet. Let's see if I can at least get this started for you so you can see how it goes. It's coming free on that side, but not on the other. So you know what we do in this case? Get the cutter and cut it off. You still got to clean that stuff out, clean that stuff out. Sway bar is good steel, and in stock applications, like 11 cars and maybe even 9 cars, since you have to use stock Volkswagen parts, you take the sway bar, cut it down, and you stick it inside the tie rod sleeve to actually strengthen the tie rod. So don't toss this is good steel.
So now we just get everything else out?
Nope. Get all those nuts and bolts off the arm, off the beam, and all that good junk. Alright, well, now we gotta get the drums off. It's gonna need an Allen set. Grab that hammer. Yep. Pop that cap on. Use the claw side. Pop it on. There you go. And there's an Allen head in there. I'll just put it down here in the ground. On the bottom side. Loosen that guy.
So it's like reverse way?
Yep.
Yeah,
Got 1, 2, 3 bolts there. 15 or 17 would be my guess, but let me take a look.
and definitely might need to swap to disc brakes. And there's 3. So that's it.
That's it. Now you got the 2 19 millimeters on the top side.
Are these
Right there.
just forward?
No.
And it's pointed in the off direction this time.
Might help.
There we go. Yeah, slightly might need.
The things are really destroyed. We'll put them on that rag. And the
Perfect.
fun one is you've got 2 that are down in here that have to come out in the center. And then the same thing over here. Everything that you do on this side, you got to do on this side. This is the stock Beetle arms, which are completely different than stock Thing arms.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, not
except,
completely, but
except for the part where it actually mounts to this.
Yeah. Getting those grub screws out at center. Those grub screws hold these leaf packs in place. So we're getting those guys out.
There we go.
One off.
Or one.
Just kind of loosen it. You don't have to pull it all the way off.
Oh, okay.
Because once we pull out the Allen screw comes out with it all together.
Now the top one. Oh, look at that.
Now we gotta get this guy and get those screws out. They're called grub screws.
Gosh, these are super tight too. Weirdest position ever. Thank you. Whew, here we go. Can put this on the top.
Alright then, while I'm talking about grub screws, see it's got that round pointed end. If you look in the end of the torsion leaf pack, there's a little divot that keys into. Now this pack is held together inside the arms tightly, and then this screw holds against these leaves so that the arm can't slide out. And there's more in the middle of the beam that basically isolates this side. So it's got a left spring essentially and a right spring. You need me to get in there and do it?
You're a bit stronger than me. There we go.
Now everything we did on this side, we got to do on that side. Alright. You can see that this front end, we've got damage back in there on that quarter panel. That fender nut's basically pulled out. You've got that rusted section right there. So all this front end damage, including where that has been pushed up. Normally this comes down to here and then goes over to here. It's going the opposite way now. And again, these inner fender wells are just toasted. Not a prime car. That side's the same thing.
And let's try this side. Right on the ground. Oh wow. It still looks nice and clean inside, huh?
Yeah. Now, gotta get these greasy old guys out.
Oh yeah.
Because now we've got to pull these out, put those in, and then put the thing ones in and cycle them.
Oh yeah, to see how.
And see how much we get out of either set. And that first.
And then
Put on a set of gloves. And yes, extra greasy. All right, now slide these guys back in.
Down.
I think the biggest limiting factor on a stock beam is probably the shock. The problem is the length between here and here, and here, it's hard to get a shock that will actually travel that. But man, that's a pretty good amount of travel. Extremely worn ball joints. Let's go 13.5 to the bottom of that hole, and basically 20 inches. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.5. This is something that Nathan noticed that I never even bothered to think of. So we're looking at about, we'll eyeball 8 5/8 of an inch from backing plate to beam with this spindle pretty straight. If we come to the other side, again, wheels pretty straight. We're not totally in place on these ball joints, but, and I'm going to show you how bad these ball joints are in a second, but if we were to come in here, and never mind my crooked finger, we're like 9 3/4. So we're actually, the arms will end up coming out an inch per side, or our spindle gets pushed out an inch per side just by using the thing spindles. Also, kind of a poor comparison at this point, but we'll get basically down to center line about 10 inches with the beam dropped out currently, and these ball joints aren't installed properly. Whereas this is 13.5. So a 3.5 inch higher suspension stance that's also an inch wider per side. So overall we get 2 inches of width and 3.5 inches of height by bolting on thing spindles.
That's pretty good, huh?
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's the stock setup and how high it sits off the ground, 13.5 inches. And it gets us about, we figured actually 6.5 inches of travel with no other suspension components attached. And these ball joints aren't properly installed, nor are they properly bolted on. But, so 10 inches to 16.5, so we're already at 6.5, same as stock. But, as I mentioned, these ball joints aren't installed properly. We can't get full travel because these ball joints were installed at the improper angle. I'm going to press these original ones out, turn them, press them back in. I'm not concerned about replacing them now. We're just mocking everything up for right now. Yeah, granted, link pin arms, you can get your arms almost straight up and down. The only limiting factor on a link pin arm is your shock. At a certain point, the arm would travel in and hit the shock. Ball joints, we're not going to be able to get as much travel as we would with a link pin, but we actually have better control with a ball joint than we do with a link pin. And it's stock Volkswagen. You can see that this ball joint is actually installed correctly and it travels up and down. This ball joint, however, is not installed correctly. So it only travels a little bit right there. So somebody did not pay attention when they installed this ball joint. You can see the alignment slot is way over here and over here, indicating its travel this way. Those alignment slots should be pointing from front to back, not from 2 o'clock to 8 o'clock. And with that, now all of our ball joints, as worn as they might be, they're all lined properly. You can actually see how this ball joint being improperly installed, it actually worn into the housing. Now we've got these properly installed, we can install them back on the front of the car, cycle them out, and see how good or bad they work. All right, Nate, now that we got all these ball joints installed properly, now we can do an apples to apples comparison, more or less, once I get this one tight.
I think that's a lot.
Could be more. Could be more.
Yeah.
I've got an idea on making longer arms. I don't know if I'm going to make it happen or not, but I'm thinking about it. All that doesn't mean nothing. What kind of travel we got, Nate? Let's find out. All right, so if we're looking at, to the bottom of that hole, 11.5 inches.
Measure it up.
There. Not quite 18 3/4. So 7 inches of travel. Not much more than the Beetle, honestly, but it is more, and it's A, wider, B, higher, C, slightly more travel. And this is actually safe travel, other than, of course, these ball joints being slightly worn. Now that they're actually traveling in the right direction, it's safe travel. With that being the case, we can slide our torsion leaves back in, and then we can start going through and put the car back on its own weight. Then we can check our ride height on that other side. I mean, that's a better position to be in right now.
I mean, at least now we can assemble it, or like put everything back together.
For now, anyway. Probably gonna pull it apart once we redo this beam. Now I got some gloves on, because this is going to be messy. That one faces down, that one faces down, that one faces up. This screw here and this screw here, or those indentations. This one points up because the grub screws on that side are on the top side. The one in the middle of the beam on this side is on center here, and on the arm on this side is on the bottom here. And then we've got to slide these guys all the way through and then somehow find their happy place back in the beam, which is usually easier said than done. It's actually easier to take a zip tie and tie all the leaves together, which I might have to do, although Nathan's probably going to have to do it. Nate, you want to grab a zip tie?
A zip tie? Oh, I'm sitting right next to zip tie. Zip tie.
You want to grab a pair of snips and cut off the end of that, please?
And
Don't get my pliers greasy, please. Thank you. Wipe those down. And that's still up. And there you go. And keep it out about the same amount on both sides. Good, good.
so just leave the zip tie in there?
Well, that zip tie is inside the middle of the beam. You have no chance of getting it out. And let me give this guy a try without the zip tie, see what we can't do. Sometimes we can get lucky. It's actually easier to slide these arms in without the arms attached. We gotta pull the grub screws out of these though. 8mm, those are standards. Alright.
There we go. And the bottom.
And hopefully those are actually in place on that side. Let's try your idea. Alright, is that screw out on that side?
Yep. Yep, it came out.
Alright. Stop. That looks like we are good to go. Are the leaves coming out with me properly, or is the arm still in?
The arm is out of it.
Alright, that should be good. That hopefully should be able to get to the top and the bottom one. Got that
Way easier than taking it out because we use the power. power of electricity nowadays.
Alright, that's that side. Put that 19 on there. We can put that nut on the bottom of that ball joint.
And then,
backing plates.
Oh.
Brakes. We can put that one on there for now. That's a 19. Get this side tightened up. Alright, that's that.
And now the brakes.
15 millimeter for the backing of plates.
That's what
That's going to stop us, no problem.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, just get turned on the other side.
That'll work too.
Why have two people work on one side?
When you can have one person
can be on
work on each side. That's using the noggins.
It looks like I'm taking it off. Because this side is reversed. Yeah, it's taking a while to get snug tight.
And then you get to balance the tire and put the tire on.
That should be easy enough, though, right?
Famous last words. This side, buddy.
There we go. And now, super wide and super tall.
I don't know about super high or super wide, but wider
Oh, yeah. I mean,
and
just looking front to back.
taller.
I mean, just seeing
I
how
don't know
tall
how
it is.
obvious it is here, but the rear
Oh, here, one second.
is down,
Let's try that.
the front is up.
That's super bouncy.
That's why we have shock absorbers.
Oh, yeah.
All right, hop out, and I guess we can get a tape measure. It's not quite fair at this point because the rear needs to be sitting level, ideally. You know what? Grab a jack, put it underneath the transmission cross brace in the back, and then we'll jack it up until our pan is level.
And
And that will give us a apples to apples ride height comparison. Getting there.
What?
I said we're getting there. Keep going. All right, close enough.
That
So,
looks tall.
Across our door jamb like we were
This thing's
prior,
taller, too.
15 1/4 inches. What were we before?
I don't know. I have to look at the quarters.
We'll have to go back and look at the
It was
videos.
like 12 or something, I think.
12 1/4. So we've come up 3 inches.
That's pretty good. I mean, it's accurate, huh?
Yeah, so 3 inches of lift.
That's actually not too bad, just on stock.
So we bolted on
Stock.
3 inches of lift. And
Definitely stock.
I guess we should have had Nathan stand side by side with the car before.
It's taller than me now, again.
It's taller than Nathan again. Was it taller than you before?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was younger, of course.
Yeah, well,
I was taller than it, like probably about here or something. But now it's taller than me. Yay, that's actually nice. Because now, it's so much more easier to get into now. And get out. You
Nice.
just kind of go straight out. And
Yeah. it's because it sits up way high.
Way higher.
And on the lowest portions of the front end of a Volkswagen is the bottom of the beam, other than that shock mount. But anyway,
Wait.
so we're looking at
About.
12 1/2 inches
That's actually pretty good, huh?
to the bottom of our beam, to the bottom of most of the chassis, 14 inches, and that's to the bottom of the actual floor pan itself. Looking at basically not quite 14 inches of ground clearance. Not too shabby.
Yeah, that's really good, huh?
All right, you know what? I'm getting hungry.
Yeah, me too.
So we've got more travel, we got more ride height, and we got a wider car. All bolt-on parts. These are all factory Volkswagen original components. I think it's a pretty good way to spend a couple days now that I got those ball joints aligned properly, so we can check the actual travel. And this side was actually limited to about 4 inches of travel with the ball joint installed incorrectly, which
That's not quite that good.
that's not good at all. We've got a higher, wider car that has more suspension than it did before. I think it's a pretty good step towards Baja. Boom. And at this point, we're going to call it a day. We're going to call it a night, actually. It's time for dinner.
I'm hungry.
I'm hungry as well. And on that note, life's full of good people.
If you can't find one,
Be one. Later, guys.